Hello, and welcome to the Being Human podcast, where we explore what it means to be human, physically, mentally, and spiritually. We upload an episode of this podcast every single week, so whether you're new here or if you're returning and you have not yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That is the best way you can help support the Being Human podcast, and it ensures you do not miss any of these episodes. On this episode of the podcast, I sat down with James Edwards. James is a men's coach. He helps men lose fat, get lean, get in shape, as well as helping them with their mindset and mental health. James shared with us how he helps men lose 20 pounds of fat in 12 weeks or less. He also shared with us how he helps men take their testosterone from as low as 250 to 900 plus nanograms per deciliter. He shared advice on what healthy fats people should be consuming and why risking your life could be beneficial for your mental health. So much great advice shared in this one. James has helped so many men improve their physical and mental health. He's a great guy. I resonate with him a lot. This was a great conversation. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got loads more episodes coming to help men out with their physical and mental health, how to improve their lives, better themselves overall. You do not want to miss any of them. Also as well, if you do enjoy the conversation, give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below, share it around on social media too. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Being Human. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Raw Optics. These are the best blue blocker glasses on the market. Staring at a screen all day can drain your energy, give you eye strain, headaches, mood imbalances. These babies eliminate all of the aforementioned. Raw Optics help me every day when I'm filming podcasts, editing podcasts, writing the Being Human newsletter on my laptop, doing all the stuff on social media. Wearing these helps keep my mood elevated, helps keep my focus locked in, reduces eye strain, reduces headaches. These really are a game changer. So if you're having to stare at a screen all day, every day, get yourself a pair of these. All you need to do is head to rawoptics.com and use the code WAGLELE to get 10% off. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Mr. Bassett's Grappler's Coffee. You do not need to be a grappler to drink it. This is simply great coffee for anybody who loves to get caffeinated and drink good coffee. It is incredibly potent in its caffeination, but it has a beautifully smooth taste. Grappler's Coffee helps me get supercharged for my workouts. It helps me stay productive throughout the day. All you need to do to pick up a bag of this is to head to mrbassets.com and use the code WAG10 to get 10% off your order. In your Instagram bio, James, you have the statement that you help busy men lose 20 pounds of fat in 12 weeks or less. How do you do that? Is it as simple as a nice big calorie deficit and hard training every day, or is there more to it than that?
So I'll kind of go into the history of my experience with fitness so I can explain it in a little bit more detail to you. So what I found with working with one-to-one clients when I was in Pure Gym in Cardiff back in the day, 2014, was that people would train with you. They would try and follow a diet, try and follow a training plan. And back then I didn't know anything about mindset or mental health. I was just, in the fitness industry as a basic floor PT. And I started to realize that people couldn't lock in their mindset. And it was actually, just call it, not a mental weakness, but a lack of mental control to stop putting junk food and, alcohol in too much volume in your mouth, drinking it down. And I then realized that I needed to kind of formulate some kind of coaching, which primarily focused on the mindset. But as I'm sure you know, people still find mental health a taboo, and it's a difficult subject to talk about. So my kind of sales play, if you like, is the fat loss, because it's an easy way to get people through the door because they think they just want to lose fat. However, most people that can't lose fat, they actually have, not call it a mental health issue, but it's going to be some kind of lack of control over the mind, and they need coaching on how to improve their discipline, their motivation, their adherence to a cause. And as you know, being an athlete yourself, like nothing happens overnight. It's a long process, and to be able to stick to a coaching program for the long term and actually get in good shape, it takes you years, not 8 weeks, even 12 weeks. Like you can get in reasonably good shape in 12 weeks, but yeah, the the premise of the program is to dig into men's mindsets and help them build up their confidence. We look at testosterone optimization because a lot of men now have extremely low testosterone. Experiencing a lot of that myself in the past and really struggling with my mental health because of the testosterone deficit, essentially. And at the time, I didn't even realize. I was like, wow, I feel this crazy anxiety and depression. And as soon as I worked on bringing my testosterone back up, that literally evaporated. And I was like, wow, there's something to this. And various other guys I've worked with this year, them improving their testosterone through strength training, higher fat consumption, better sleep, some really good supplements, which I'll go into, I'm sure, at some point in the conversation as well. They put their testosterone from, one guy's gone from 250 to 900, and his doctor actually texted him and said, you need to stop because your testosterone is going too high. And I was like, yes, bro, that is sick. And I've had mine done, and mine is at 900 as well. And that's the highest it's ever been in my life. Well, saying that, I had my first test done 26, 27. So it could have potentially been higher when I was younger. But yeah, so to summarize, we focus a lot on the mental health aspect, because without your mind in check, you won't change your body.
Yeah, you highlighted a couple of things there, which I've talked about before on this podcast, which I think are really important and poignant in the situation we find ourselves in today. Number one, people talk about physical health, mental health. The two are inextricably linked. You want to take care of your physical health, you need the right mindset, you need your mental health to be in check, so you actually have the discipline to carry out the steps you need to improve physical health, and vice versa. And to improve your mental health, having everything from your testosterone in check to making sure you've got a good aerobic level of fitness, so you're not walking around all day out of breath, so you've got clarity of mind. You need to be taking care of your physical health if you want to have good mental health, if you want to be feeling happy and healthy and fulfilled in yourself. So I think that's really important. And then obviously the second thing is I was going to say testosterone epidemic. People have varying views on how much of an issue this is in the world today, but I think regardless, maybe some people overblow how many people actually have, medically low testosterone. I think a lot of people, just from an anecdotal basis, are in a bad spot when it comes to testosterone. They'll have their testosterone measured, and they'll see it's nowhere near what it should be. I think the prescribed range for what an adult's testosterone should be is between 500 and 800 nanograms per deciliter. Is that the quoted average, or the supposed average?
Yeah. So you're looking, they would say 400 to 500 is with a safe, healthy zone. However, in the UK with the NHS, they're just looking at protecting your actual life. So if you're at risk of death, then they're going to take action. However, to feel optimally healthy and full of vitality and drive as a male, I think 600 plus is what I've seen really, really benefits. And, the reason why men are struggling so much with this is because most things in life are combating testosterone. The poor sleep, our diets, processed food, alcohol absolutely hammers testosterone. There's this whole drinking culture in the UK, which is just, it's just ruining lives, essentially. There's so many levels to it. So yeah, what we try and do is we just look at all the factors that are coming into play that are inhibiting it and crushing it. And to be honest, if you look at it and you step back and you think, there's no wonder why so many men are struggling, because we're encouraged to live this life where we have this varied diet and we can eat whatever we want, and sleep 4 or 5 hours a night, get super stressed, and then we're showing up in our relationship and you don't have sex drive anymore, and your girlfriend's wondering why you don't find them attractive, and you don't have the same strength in the gym, you can't hold off body fat. The characteristics of a male with low testosterone is they're going to store fat around the midsection, which is probably the most common question I get asked, which is, how do you get abs? Now, I'm sure you've heard people ask that as well. Like it is like gold dust these days. And the reason why is because hormones aren't optimized and our lifestyles are literally destroying us from the inside out.
Yeah, I mean, they've done these studies, haven't they, where they've surveyed women's opinions and found that women on average prefer a dad bod over abs. I mean, maybe our male perspective is completely skewed, but I don't quite trust that, because when you have abs, that is a sign that you are a fit and healthy male. You don't need to be, single digits body fat shredded all year round. That's probably not healthy for most people. But the idea that women, anyone, isn't attracted to a lean, fit, healthy male over somebody that's got a dad bod that's out of shape just seems counterintuitive to me on on every level, from evolutionary biology to any level you can think of. Let's go into the testosterone point a bit more. And I suppose it ties in, I suppose your testosterone, would you say your testosterone is kind of a good marker of how your physical health and potentially your mental health as well is doing overall? Would you say that's kind of representative? Is there a good correlation there, that if you've got low testosterone, your mental health isn't where it needs to be and your physical health isn't great either? Is that the correlation you tend to see?
Yeah, 100%. It's the chicken and the egg, right? So if your testosterone is low, your mental health is going to crash, and it's going to be really, really hard to wake up and feel good about yourself. I've spoken to so many guys now, and they have this anxiety or this depression, and they just cannot pinpoint where it's coming from. And then we look at the testosterone, and it's through the floor. And also on the other side of that, if you had good testosterone and you're going through depression or anxiety or stress because of something else going on in your life, then you're going to crush your testosterone as well. So even if there wasn't another determining factor at play, bang, it's dropped away. So this is why we have to optimize and look at every area. And it could even be, right, how is your relationship? What's the quality of your intimacy and your connection with your partner? And if that's poor and there's not respect and admiration and support within the relationship, like even that can have an impact on it. So yeah, there's so many levels to it, man. And it's such the reason why I campaign for it is because I see it as the invisible serial, I wouldn't say serial killer, but serial destroyer of men's happiness, essentially. And it's not been spoken about enough. I do see, some ads running and things like that where, these companies are latching onto it, and, Manual Men's and all that, they're offering these testosterone tests now, which is amazing. And I think the only idea from people so far, at least across the board, is that the only way to fix it is to go on testosterone replacement therapy. And there are a lot of other ways in which you can build it up naturally, just improving your healthy fat consumption. And that's something else I campaign for, is high fat and lower processed carbs. And I'm not a hater of carbs. However, if you eat a low fat diet with higher carb, higher protein, your testosterone will crush, like you'll be in the floor. And you need that healthy fat level to optimize your hormone profile and support your endocrine system. And in the past, I've done the same thing. There was a phase where we all thought that, maybe like dieting for a photo shoot. And I was like, right, just cut the fat out because fat equals fat. And it's like, no, like you just destroyed your hormone profile. And I learned the hard way. And, my sex drive was non-existent. Like it was literally gone. And I just felt like it's the vitality and the masculinity. It involves, not being an absolute sex pest, but having that feeling of just like the strength and the wholeness that comes from having a high testosterone, And if you don't have that, I feel like you feel incomplete as a man.
Yeah, I agree. Again, like, not to oversimplify these things, but I think your libido is such a great marker as a fertile man of how healthy you are. Like, as a young man, anywhere under 40 probably, like, you should have a really good level of libido. You should want to have sex a fair amount. And if you don't, then that's probably indicative that there are, issues going on the mental and physical side again. So to go into these protocols, you said obviously a lot of people now are hopping on TRT, and I think for 99% of people, it's just not necessary. You mentioned high fat consumption or higher fats consumption. healthy fats. What are these healthy fats that you're speaking about? What are the kinds of fats and the sources of foods that people can get those fats from that you want to see people eating more of?
Good question. So I want to dive into why we don't eat fat to start with. And, we're going to put our tinfoil hats on right now, but there's theories that in the 70s and 80s, the big food companies put out a narrative that saturated fat was causing cancer, and it was causing heart disease. And we could all sit here and come up with a reason why. It's just speculation. However, it looks like it was probably because they wanted to sell carbohydrate based products, because those are the most profitable products. And, the old school fats, eggs, meat, things like that, they're not as easy to profit from. So this false narrative was spread that fat was bad for us and it would make us fat and it would make us unhealthy. And this is actually still being pushed by medical professionals now. The first thing they'll say is if you have high cholesterol, is it a low fat diet? And actually, if you consume good fats in high quantities, like, it'll help lower your bad cholesterol and increase the good cholesterol. Like, your brain is made up predominantly of cholesterol, and you're literally making yourself less intelligent by consuming a low fat diet. On top of that, like I said, the hormone profile, it's impossible to optimize your hormones without having a good source of healthy fats every day. And yeah, to go into the predominant sources, we've got salmon, eggs, steak, ground beef, and even things like, pork. We're trying to stay away from the processed meats, the ham. They contain nitrates, bacon, sausages, things like that. I do have them every now and again because, no one's perfect and they're still a good source of protein. But yeah, this has been my hardest journey within the fitness industry, is changing people's mindset from I need to not eat fat because I want to lose weight, to if you eat fat in the right quantities, obviously, like, you still need to be in a calorie deficit. However, what I found is if you eat higher fat, you feel satiated and you stop craving carbs. And I used to have such a sweet tooth, and I would binge and I would have cheat meals and, Ben and Jerry's, whatever. And since I've been on this diet of higher fat and higher protein, like, I don't have any cheat meals anymore. I can stay leaner. I'm stronger. My testosterone's higher. I sleep better. Like, my skin's better. Like, it's crazy, man. It's like I've just gone on steroids without touching any type of enhancement. And what I've seen, the change in, this guy's on the coaching program with me, and they're losing stones of weight. It's flying off them, like, just from taking out the processed foods and all of these carbohydrates that we deem to be healthy. In small quantities, they can be, but what we see is a lot of these processed carbs, they're causing inflammation in the gut. We're killing the gut microbiome, and that's also going to crush not only your testosterone, but a lot of the serotonin and the dopamine, which are the feel-good chemicals in the brain, created in the gut. So if you're inflamed and you're eating carbs, you're literally going to be depressed and anxious, for no apparent reason other than your gut is in a bad state. And then moving on from that, your immune system is going to be compromised. So if something like COVID pops up, if your gut microbiome aren't in a healthy state, you're more likely to get sick. Since doing this diet, I never get ill. Everyone's been ill around me in the last couple of months, and it's crazy, man. It sounds like I'm being arrogant and blowing smoke up my own ass, but I'm shocked by the findings of this. And I always try, and I'm the test subject, so I'm the guinea pig for my clients, and I won't preach anything, on my Instagram or with my personal private group. I won't do anything without trying it myself first. So I practice a combination of science-based studies, but also realize that some of the studies are bullshit, some of the studies are financially driven, and we need to use a combination of self-testing and science-based studies to find the sweet spot, maybe 50% in the middle of that. So yeah, complex, man.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak on it personally right now. So I'm competing this Saturday, and oftentimes when I compete, I have to cut weight. And before, I'd go into a calorie deficit and cut the fat over a sustained period of time. But then I found out if I actually eliminate carbs the week of, my muscle glycogen drains to the point where I can lose up to 5 kilos in a week, which is a nice trick to be able to make weight. And when I first started doing this, because, as an athlete, training hard every day, eating a good amount of carbs does aid me, probably more so than somebody that's living quite a sedentary lifestyle. So when I first started cutting weight this way, the week of a comp was absolutely hellish for me, because my body was so used to always having carbs, it didn't really know how to operate in a quote unquote keto state, not really a true keto state, but it didn't know how to operate without the carbs when it was just having protein and fat. But now, I haven't done this cut is the first one I'm doing in about 6 months, because I've been competing at a higher weight this year. And, we're midway through the week here on Wednesday, and I feel amazing. I haven't had any carbs since Sunday, and the clarity of mind I feel is better. I feel sharper. I feel happier. And obviously that could be due to a number of things, but I don't think it's a coincidence. And before, like I said, my body would feel weaker, my muscles would feel weaker, and I'd feel like I had less energy. Whereas now I just feel as though my energy's even maybe elevated a little bit. And even though I can't maybe push into the higher levels of lactate that I usually can when I've got those extra carbs in me, my energy level is just nice and high and nice and steady. So I can attest to it myself. And I think I hope it's a relief for men to hear that when we're talking about healthy fats, we're not just saying eat your avocados, because that's, 10 years ago, that was the classic. People talk about, get your healthy fats in, have your avocados, have a handful of nuts. And not to say they're not healthy fats. I think nuts in moderation for most people is going to be very beneficial for the health. Avocado is a good source of fat, right? But you also need those heavy saturated fats that, when we've been told, these saturated fats are causing heart disease, you went into the reasons why, that's kind of being debunked, and the reasons why that was maybe pushed on us as a society in the first place 50 or so years ago. These saturated fats are actually good for us. They're not harming us. Again, everything in moderation, but I think it's reassuring for people to hear that a healthy fat profile includes them having their eggs and bacon in the morning every now and then. Not even just every now and then. I think eggs are, like I said, bacon's a bit more of an iffy one, but eggs especially. Having your eggs every morning is something that is good for you. Having steak, ground beef, salmon, these are all things that, you should be eating when they've been demonized. Not salmon, more beef, but these are things that have been demonized for a long time. So I hope it's reassuring for people to hear that. Aside from healthy fats, what else should people be doing, or what are the main things that people are lacking when it comes to getting what they need to up their testosterone?
So let's dig into sleep. I think that a lot of people struggle with, sleep in general, getting off to sleep, maintaining good quality of sleep. And this is going to be down to a variety of factors. The number one being alcohol, especially in the UK. We do have a huge problem with alcohol in the UK, ranging from binge drinking from, student life right up until people in their 50s, 60s and 70s they think it's okay to polish off 3-4 bottles of wine a week because they've done it all their life, and maybe their parents did it as well, and that doesn't mean it's right. I think we have this bias where if we see a lot of people doing something, we think it's okay to do it as well. And what the studies are now showing, the famous sleep scientist called Matthew Walker, he's got some amazing TED Talks, highly recommend checking him out. And he has basically come out with the facts that no alcohol is good for you. No alcohol is good for sleep. If you have a couple of drinks and you think you're going off to sleep better, you're actually sedated. You're not sleeping, you're basically passed out. And even if it's just 2 drinks, that's not actual REM sleep. And we need to go into REM sleep to get any form of healing. After 2-3 a.m. in the morning, there's a process within the brain that removes a toxin. And we can only remove that toxin while we're in the REM sleep, essentially. So yeah, the alcohol stops the REM sleep, then you don't remove the toxin, and you're actually causing low-level brain damage over years and years of doing that. On top of that, there's a toxin caused by alcohol, which has now been claimed to be a class 1 carcinogen. So any alcohol at all is on the same level as smoking and breathing in asbestos in a house. So, go figure that one. So yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm not a huge fan. And I used to love drinking, man. Like I love raves, festivals, like used to go absolutely wild. And maybe once a year I'll go ballistic. And, I fully know what I'm doing to my body and I'll still go and do it. But the frequency is what is destroying people's lives, essentially. Drinking 3, 4, 5 times a week, even if it's one glass a night, like there's no argument now that that's healthy. Whereas in the past, it was like, your nightcap, or that was something we could just do, and everyone was accepting it. So yeah, that's alcohol to one side. And I would then say that protein, as an athlete yourself, you know how important that is. I always recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight at a minimum, whether it's male or female. And just doing this would change your body over the course of a year. If you just did that and absolutely nothing else, you didn't even control your calories, you didn't train. If you just ate 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, your body would change drastically over the course of 1 year. If you then apply processed carb reduction, higher fats, more strength training, better sleep, like you'll be a different person after 1 year. And that is what I see in most people that I speak to, is they can't hit their protein targets because they're consuming too many carbs. So there's literally no room in their stomach for the protein. And yeah, again, if you're training hard in the gym and you're not eating enough protein, you're just going to eventually, burn out. You're not going to be healing properly. And then again, your testosterone is going to be pretty hammered there. I'm still experimenting as well with carbohydrates. So, as you said there, like you use a higher carb load for your performance. I find, again, with my training, I can train at about 60, 70% on low carb. But if I want to go absolutely ham and hit new PBs, I need a level of carbohydrates, and I try and get them from fruit, honey, sweet potato, and sometimes normal potato. And just basically my focus is, if it's come from the ground, then we can use it. And again, if you're competing as an endurance athlete, yeah, we're going to be smashing pasta and all kinds, because you just need those carbs. Like you're burning mad calories, and it's the same with you. Like you need carbs. I don't care where that comes from. You need the carbs in the system. But for 99% of the population, they don't really ever need to be eating processed carbohydrates because they have no utility for it.
Yeah, I think it's such an important distinction to make, because there's so many podcasts out there, there's so many reels on Instagram. People might hear a snippet of information on nutritional science or physiology, and then apply that to their life. And it's important to remember there is a big distinction between somebody that's training for an ultra endurance event, competing in an ultra endurance event, or competing in any kind of event as an athlete, and the average person that's sitting down for 8 hours a day from 9 to 5, and then driving home after driving to work, and then sitting down in front of the TV and maybe getting their steps in and getting a gym workout in. They are two very different lifestyles, and the kind of training that one should be doing versus the other in order to achieve their goals are going to be different, because the goals are different, right? Achieving peak athletic performance is very different to just being a healthy, vital human being. And I think maybe we should go into that. And by virtue of that, your diet's going to be different. You're going to need more sleep, although sleep across the board, everyone needs to be getting, I'd say, between 7 and 9 hours. I'm not sure exactly what it is you prescribe, but I'm sure it's kind of around that area. But to go into that point on training, obviously there are many different training methods, many different ways of training, methods of training, volumes, intensities, etc. And it's going to be dependent on people's goals. But presuming that someone comes through your door, they say, I'm a young man, 25-year-old man, low testosterone, not feeling great mentally, not feeling great physically. What are you looking to prescribe them, quote unquote, for their training each week? How many days a week should they be training? What should that training consist of? Intensities, volumes? Let's go into all of that.
Yeah, good question. So say if they are a novice lifter, maybe they've been pissing around in the gym for 6 months, seen no results. What I would put them on is a 3-day per week full body split. So that's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we're just hitting the big compound moves. So most people will go in the gym, especially the guys, and they'll just go straight to the machine, straight to the cables. They'll see all these enhanced bodybuilders doing these crazy 10 by 10, 10 by 20 workouts. And those are completely pointless if you're natural. And I've learned that the hard way, because I've spent years doing junk volume. Being a natural myself, you need, and again, self-study, tested on myself, we need progressive overload in terms of weight. And the best way to do that is through compound lifts, the squat, the deadlift, weighted chin-ups, weighted pull-ups, weighted dips, even getting them to do press-up variations and things like that. Like, you can, as you know full well, you can build a great physique, and actually a better physique, by doing and focusing on those lifts with quality, rather than doing 10, 12 exercises per workout and having put maximal effort into none of them. So yeah, 3 days per week. And, if their goals, I'd like them to do at least one aerobic session per week, just to keep everything tight. And if their goals are a muscle gain, we're going to do slightly less cardio. And if it's fat loss, we're putting in 4 or 5 pieces of low intensity cardio per week as well, if they have the time for it. It all depends on how much time they have to allocate per week. But yeah, to summarize, I push people into the compounds, and perfecting the biomechanics of the squat, the deadlift, the dips, pull-ups, getting those locked in through technique coaching over time. And then once the technique's locked, then we're ramping the weight up, and we're moving up to 8 reps. And then once you've hit those 8 reps clean, and then we're going to add more weight, 2.5 kilograms a week, roughly, until we hit a sticking point, and then potentially change the exercise. But that's what I see in bang for buck. You can go in, the session's done in 45 minutes. We're going to be hitting 3 to 4 exercises, and you're done, you're back out. So it's the most beneficial way to train. And this is what I find in terms of muscle growth or fat loss. You obviously change their calorie budget. So deficit, surplus, in terms of the calories, but the training is pretty much exactly the same.
And I think it's safe to say, when it comes to most people's problems with really maintaining physical health, or staying on that road, and with mental health as well, it's discipline and staying the course that's the issue, right? People can get in the gym and be disciplined for 4 weeks. They can be really good on their diet for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, etc. Do you have any kind of discipline tricks, mindset tricks that you use with your clients to help them stay the course? How do you get them to keep working at it after that 2-week period, after the novelty of it is worn off, and they're like, oh, this is hard now, going into the new gym or trying out the new diet, the novelty of that's worn off, and now it feels mundane and I don't want to do it anymore? But how do you get people over that hump and get them to stay the course?
So the first one is obviously the actual accountability of staying on and retain a long-term program. So at the start, we go into the intensive coaching, and we're really digging into the mindset, maybe, trauma from their childhood, and just digging out, looking at what may be causing this lack of adherence. And it's usually something deeper than just, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, because by default, as humans, we're not supposed to be lazy. We're supposed to be, going out and hunting and procreating and getting after our lives and building civilizations. So the idea that modern humans are lazy, it's a construct, and there's something that we need to address within the mind. So yeah, the accountability seems to be what the men find the best part of the program. And even I'm maybe overloading them with documentation and all the ebooks I've written, and some of them can't consume that much information. However, when we get on the coaching calls and I can speak to them, and we've got a face-to-face and emotional connection, that seems to be the best way in terms of my coaching to keep them on track. And then we dig in, we just go through a questionnaire, how they're feeling, stress, sex drive, mental health, physical health, how's your training been, how's your diet been? And if it's not been good, we just brainstorm it and make the changes we need to. In terms of discipline and motivation without me, because obviously everyone needs to find it themselves, I push hard the morning routine. And I know this is it's spoken about too much at the moment, and it's actually annoying me, and how people are like, oh my God, cold showers, and they're this like warrior for the ice, and it's like, I personally have been doing ice therapy for the last 5 years, and without being too morbid, it probably saved my life. And I think that it is an incredible tool just for the mindset. Like, I don't really care about what it does for the physicality. Like, I'll deal with my DOMs however I deal with them, you know, like I think it's overhyped for athletes and underhyped for fixing people's mental health. You get if you are exposed to ice cold water for 3 minutes or more, you get a 300% increase in dopamine in the brain. And the only other thing that can do that is a line of cocaine. So if you take it like that, like if you could give someone with depression a 300% dopamine increase every morning, that's stronger than an SSRI. And that could save lives, you know, if someone's depressed or suicidal, and just that on its own. I believe that's not spoken about enough as well. So that's also something I push the guys really hard to do. And it's tough. I know it's difficult. Like, I get in an ice bath at 5:30 every morning. Like, I don't want to do it, you know, but that idea that I'm constantly showing up and doing stuff that I hate, that has built such a strong resilience within my mind of continually doing it every single day, that going to the gym or climbing a mountain or taking risk for me is, I have full control over my mind now, whereas I never had that in the past. So if I want to drink or I want to smoke or I want to eat junk food, like, I just look at it and I watch it and I'm like, I don't need that. So one of the most powerful tools is the ice therapy, and also the meditation. Even if you can just do 10 minutes a day, that idea of stepping out of your mind for a little bit and observing your own thoughts, and just, like, I'll talk about it like a mental library. So you imagine if you go into a library and the books are all over the floor and it's a fucking mess. And that is most of our brains. It's chaos, man. Like, if you opened up someone's brain on the street and you could see their thoughts, like, it would be incessant. It's wild. Like, I think we have something like 60,000 thoughts a day. And for most people, 70 to 80% of those are negative. So figure that out. It's like having a bully in your own mind, man. And I have been so nasty to myself in the past. And then, you know, no wonder I was in such a bad state mentally, because, you know, most people are bullying themselves on a daily basis. I'm not in good enough shape. I don't have enough money. No one thinks I'm attractive, you know. And what meditation does is it helps you start to change very, very slowly, by the way, the narrative that you tell yourself on a daily basis. And then you find peace and you find calm. And most people quit because, just like the training, it doesn't happen overnight. Like, realistically, you probably have to do it for 6 months to actually start. You know, I'm obsessed with Buddhism and the Shaolin teachings, and they meditate for like 10 hours a day, man. Like, they don't speak for 14 days. And the reason why they do this is because the brain won't change quickly. The brain is a slow adaptation, just like the body is a slow adaptation. And if you invest in your body and your mind for a year, you can change everything.
Are there any particular specific meditation techniques you would recommend for people starting out meditation? Because it's difficult, right? People don't know where to start. You know, you're being told to be present, center yourself, and people are like, what does that actually mean in real estate? How do I do this thing called meditation?
Yeah, good question. So I've also been asked that a lot, and the reason why people can't do it is because they put too much pressure on themselves to do it. It's a bit like, it's the same as the gym, isn't it? People, they go in and they're like, oh my God, I'm not shredded, I'm going home. I can't meditate, I don't want to do this. And it's like, it's when you start from the ground up, it's literally like learning to walk. Like, a baby doesn't learn to walk in 1 5-minute session. You know, it's a long process, and they crash into walls and fall on the floor, and, you know, eventually they can walk. And it's the same with meditation. Like, you have to realize that you're not a Shaolin monk, you're just a punter that has never meditated before. So easy strategy, we're going to do 5 minutes. You're going to go on YouTube and look for 432 hertz meditation, and this is beautiful music at frequency, which is supposed to be the frequency of the universe, if you believe in all that spiritual stuff. Like, I love it personally, but I don't talk about it too much because people start to think you're a little bit crazy. But yeah, the 432 hertz, you're just going to do 5 minutes. You're going to sit down, put your hands on your legs, and just breathe slowly and observe the thoughts. That's it. We're not asking you to stop thinking. Just observe what comes up for you. It's probably going to be, it will be chaos. Like, it's going to be wild. And you're going to be thinking, oh my God, I forgot to text that person back. Like, I need to do the washing. And these thoughts, rather than trying to catch them, you just need to let them circulate around the brain. And over time, they'll just start to calm. And it's like a load of feathers blowing around in the air. And eventually they'll come down and settle. And that is the whole premise of meditation.
I think that's a great way of putting it. And I think that's a really good point as well. People need to know that, as with anything, it's a low barrier to entry, or it starts off as a low barrier to entry. You don't need, the same way that you don't need to go in the gym and run an ultra marathon straight off the bat, or squat 4 plates right off the bat. Far from either of those things. It's going to the gym, start walking around, do a few reps of this, do a few reps of that. Same with meditation. People think you've got to have this complete inner peace where you're totally present, where your mind is a complete blank canvas. It's not about that at all. That's the ideal that we're always, quote unquote, chasing, which is obviously isn't a very meditative term. But yeah, that's the ideal, and that's not where you're going to be, certainly at the start. It's just simply a case of taking time to sit down, be with yourself, and, as you said, see what comes up and wait for those feathers to settle. And don't get caught up in chasing that feeling, wanting them to settle. They'll settle when they're ready to, when you've paid enough time, paid enough awareness to what's going on inside. So I think that's really important. And you touched on this already with the cold water, the cold plunges, the cold exposure. I wanted to talk to you about all the things that you do, which most people would define as, I suppose, high octane adrenaline activities. And I think cold plunging does fall into that. I mean, it certainly spikes your adrenaline and cortisol. But when I first started following you, James, you were posting a lot of outdoor stuff, hiking, climbing the mountains in Snowdonia, which, obviously, a man after my own heart. I'm a massive lover of the mountains too. And I think we're probably on the same page with this as with the cold water. With that, it's like, okay, physical benefits, they're there, right? You get physical benefits from hopping under an ice cold shower. You get physical benefits from hiking up a mountain. But I'm guessing with you, it's more what it does for you mentally, right? Talk to me about those high octane activities. I mean, you do some pretty crazy rock climbing, diving, mountain biking. Talk to me about why you do these quote unquote adrenaline sports. What's the benefit that you gain from those beyond just pure enjoyment?
I think because I've been an adrenaline junkie since I was a little kid, man. Like, I've always been into surfing, mountain biking, throwing myself off cliffs, and just I don't even know why I did it. It's just it's just something that I love to do, and I think what I've realized now is I think that I have ADHD, and I never even realized when I was a kid. Like, I was terrible in school. Like, I had my own desk outside the classroom and I would be a terror, and I was very lucky to have parents that supported me doing extreme sport from an early age and threw me in the sea, and I was getting freezing cold and eating loads of biscuits just to try and warm up afterwards. In terms of what it does for me, I think I only realized how beneficial it was for me when I got into my late 20s and early 30s. And that whole time I'd been doing it, I'd essentially been self-medicating without even realizing, especially with the surfing and the mountain biking. So I only really got into mountaineering and rock climbing in kind of 2018. But what I found was, again, suffering with pretty extreme anxiety and depression for most of my life, that was my method of escape and sanctuary. And when I did something that was threatening my life, it gave me peace. And the more I pushed into that, and the more peaceful I felt. And what I realized was, I like we had a little conversation about it, how it then makes menial tasks in life and things that may have scared you, like jumping on a podcast or speaking in front of a group, like that is kind of nothing compared to hanging off Ben Nevis in the middle of winter off 2 ice axes, and questioning whether you're going to make it home or not. And yeah, I think obviously I'm not going to recommend everyone go and do a winter route on Ben Nevis straight away, but I think everyone could benefit from putting themselves in a little bit of risk, manageable risk, and obviously use a professional if you haven't done it before. But go out there and see things that scare you a little bit, and realize that it's not that scary, and you build your character and your soul through adversity, whether that's the physical and the mental, and pushing yourself to do something like Crib Gore for the first time. You've done that, and you're petrified, and a lot of people have to get rescued off it, and you've done it, and you're like, wow, like maybe I am a bit braver than I thought, And bravery is also a skill, by the way. So you don't just be brave. Like, no one is just confident. You just repeatedly do it. Like, the first time I did Crib, I was petrified, and then 4 or 5 years later, I'm leading ice climbs and setting up leads myself, and I still get scared, bro. Like, I was climbing an ice fall in Idwal over winter, and I got to this point where the ice was starting to melt, and I hit my axe in, it just pulled out, and like my legs literally started shaking. I was like, this isn't me, man. I should be braver than this, But I stopped for a minute and I just breathed into it, and I let myself calm, and then carried on, So I think it's a process, and we never fully get over the fear. It's literally always there, and you have to learn to manage it rather than just think that I never want to feel it.
Yeah, I mean, it's reassuring to hear that you were also petrified the first time you did Crib. It makes me feel like less of a wuss. I mean, yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you've just said. I mean, last year I set myself the challenge, ended up doing it with my friend for charity. We set the challenge of running the Welsh 3000s in under 10 hours. And all said and done, came to the day, we did 10 hours 55. So not quite there.
It's impressive, man.
Yeah, we had to spend a lot of time on the mountains. The friend that I did it with, the former Royal Marine. So I was very lucky I had him as like my mountain guide. Without him, I don't think I would have been able to do it. I mean, God, getting over the hill of doing Crib Goch, I hadn't done any climbing before, any scrambling. And then all of a sudden, you're up on this knife edge ridge, and you're looking at where you're going. And the cold hard truth is, you take one step wrong, and that's it. You're done. Your life is completely over. And I'd never experienced anything close to that before. I'd never done anything where I was like, if I take this step or even 10 steps in either direction, my life is over. Being faced with my mortality in that kind of way was completely new to me, and my God, was it scary. I'm not going to put on any pretense about that. It was scary beyond words. But then going home, the next day, everything else in life seems pretty insignificant, and it makes you realize when you're actually putting yourself in those situations, yeah, they're very difficult, incredibly scary, but then it makes everything else on the other end so much easier. And you hear people in the military talk about this, and obviously some people are absolutely wrecked by PTSD, not trying to glorify going to war. Obviously, we're very thankful that we have people that are willing to do so. But people that have been in the military and handle war particularly well, they talk about how they've been on however many tours of Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. They come back home and they're like these hyper organized, hyper efficient individuals, and they're able to just go through life so quote unquote easily. And many of them say it's because when they've been having to deal with the horrific things that they have been having to deal with out at war, normal life, civilian life, is just like a walk in the park to them. And you can see that with the best performers, the people that do the best in the military and that respond to those environments really well. They're just these hyper efficient people, and life does just seem like a walk in the park to them when they've been to war. So yeah, I think, as you said, everyone should push themselves outside their comfort zone, and you do have to be aware of the risk you're taking on, because those risks are real. That's why you're going to get them from them. So take the proper precautions and be aware of what you're doing. But I think in as controlled an environment as you can make it, it's something that's going to be massively beneficial for so many people.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
So to kind of speak more on the mental health side of things, obviously we have everything we've just talked about. We've got the physical health side of things. Do you have any other tips? There are no tricks, obviously, but tips or tricks for people that really are in a mental rut to help them get themselves out of it?
So finding, all of these things that we're told to do to fix our mental health, whether it's going to counseling or going on antidepressants or maybe doing some exercise, sleeping better, these are small compared to having a purpose. And if you look into the history books, like I really love Stoicism, Ryan Holiday, check him out if you haven't done already. All the men and women who became successful in history had to go through a lot of adversity, and they had a mission. They had a purpose that was higher than themselves. And it wasn't easy. Like it was tough, man. And what I realized was growing up in probably too much safety and comfort was that I'm speaking to men here, but we're not supposed to feel good every day. We're not supposed to feel happy every day. We have a variety of emotions that we need to navigate through. And it doesn't just mean happiness. Like I actually hate the word happiness, because purpose in life comes from a mission, and missions that have any type of significance are really tough. And the idea that we're supposed to be happy and comfortable and safe every day is killing thousands, if not millions of men, because as soon as they go through adversity, they pull back and they backtrack and they say, whoa, no, this is too tough. Like I feel bad. Like I don't want to be feeling uncomfortable, and I don't want this challenge. Whereas what I found is the true healing for men is building a community of like-minded men, and that's what my mission is with my online coaching. We're sharing the journey together, and supporting each other. Having that spiritual, soulful connection with another man that you trust is absolutely paramount and essential for men. And just investing in a woman. I'm not saying don't talk to your girlfriend or don't speak to women, but there's something biologically about the connection between two men that actually heals a man's brain. And if you are on a mission together, then that levels up even more. And having a purpose to wake up for, I can speak from my own experience now, going through very, very difficult, dark times myself. When I look back at what was going on there, I had no mission. Like I had no reason to wake up. Like, why was I even there? Whereas now, some mornings I probably do wake up and feel the same. Life is just as hard as it was then. However, because I have, men that I need to serve, and I have people that depend on me, I don't really get to think about my feelings anymore. Like, okay, yeah, I feel shit, but people need me, and I want to make a difference to the world. So I know that men before me that have created great things have struggled massively as well. So why would I be arrogant enough to say that I should feel good all the time? Because that's not life.
Again, a couple of really important points there, I think. Number one, life is hard. And I think through all of this, that has to be said. Yes, you take care of your physical health, you journal, you read, you meditate, you do all the things right. Your life may still be really fucking hard. And I think people need to hear that, because we're living in unprecedented times where we've got so much pleasure, so much indulgence at our fingertips. It's led us into this idea that life's supposed to be easy. And the truth of the matter is, life has never been easy. I do think there are certain elements of this world today, of this life today, that really are tougher than they ever have been before. Like, we're so chronically busy now. The way the economy works, the way society works, we're so chronically online and busy in a way that we weren't before. And because of social media, it's so great in many ways, but because of it, we're lonelier than we ever have been before, ironically. So I think in some ways, yes, life is harder in ways than it ever has been before. But life has always been hard. Before we had central heating, you were cold, stone cold all winter. Before we had markets and groceries and all of these systems in place. You were having to go out and hunt for your food every day, and if you weren't successful, you didn't eat. Life has always been incredibly hard, and in that regard, life is the easiest it's ever been right now. And because of that, that's why so many people are, again, ironically, finding it hard, because we've lost the appreciation for the fact that suffering is a part of life, and it's about finding the things that you need to suffer for and discarding the things that you don't need to suffer for. And I think this pursuit of happiness can be great for some people, but for some people it can actually really wreck them. And I always say the same myself all the time: purpose over happiness. Happiness will be a part of your purpose, but if purpose is your guiding compass, there are so many other emotions that will then be able to fit under that umbrella. And if your guiding compass is happiness, all those other emotions just have to kind of bounce off the top of it, and they're not allowed in. And then the second thing, men, as you said, ultimately, finding a great romantic partner that's going to support you. For a straight man, like finding a woman, that's going to be so imperative to your purpose, to your happiness in life long term. But the other part of it, which I think is the part that's being neglected, is that men do need other men, like-minded, like-spirited men around them to tend to their mental health, their emotional health, and obviously their physical health too. We used to be out as men hunting in packs every single day. As much as your girlfriend, your wife will know you and be able to understand you, they haven't been in the shoes of a man. They won't know how a man necessarily feels in certain situations. Only your friends, only your quote unquote brothers by blood or by connection are going to know what that feels like and are going to be able to help you in certain ways in those situations. So I think both of those are really important points for people to hear. As a finishing question, I ask this to pretty much every guest, and you can either break it down into two sub-questions if you like, or answer it as the same, depending on how you frame it in your mind, James. What to you is success, and what is the meaning of life? Are those two things separate, or does success equal meaning?
Love that. I love that. The meaning of life. I'll answer this one first. The meaning of life is to make a difference to the world in some way, I think. And I think everyone has a small part to play in that. And finding that is the beauty of life, is the journey, and constantly chasing that pursuit is movement, and the movement is the essence of life. And some people are very lucky to find it early on. Some people don't find it until they get to their 80s or 90s. And purpose and making a difference, that is love. Like, we've got romantic love, and we've got love for the family, but true love is a love for life that comes from making some kind of difference to the world. And that feeling, I don't think you can touch that. Making a difference to, even if it's one person, but more than that, if you can help people, success is intrinsically linked to that. The what they see is and I'm not against money, by the way. I love hustle culture. However, if you just chase money, you're going to wreck yourself, because along that journey, if you don't chase your spiritual path and your physical path, like we spoke about, you're going to end up with a load of money and no happiness and no way to deal with your emotions. So the people who are truly successful, I would say, have invested in all of those things simultaneously, and then as a byproduct, they've made a lot of wealth as well, and then they can truly enjoy it. However, you see a lot of millionaires and even some billionaires who are extremely unhappy. They have no health, and they're depressed, and the suicide rates in celebrities is not to be ignored either. So that's not success on its own. Success is finding a place where you feel content within yourself, you feel peaceful, and like you've made a difference to the world.
I think that's a great answer. James, thank you for coming on and sharing everything you have today.
You're welcome, man.
If people want to consume your content, if we want to seek your help, where can they go to do that?
So I'm running most of my stuff just out my Instagram and TikTok at the moment. So it's James_ED_. And yeah, I'm just sharing my findings, upsetting some people with my controversial opinions, and yeah, just sharing the journey. And if you do want to get involved with my online coaching, we can book in a call and go from there.
That's fantastic, James.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.